encryption, which I know you've referenced. Let's first pull up demonstrative slide 14 with the court's permission.
Yes, you may.
Dr. Levine, is this a slide you prepared to discuss end-to-end encryption?
That's correct.
And does it accurately reflect your views on end-to-end encryption or the process of end-to-end encryption?
It's illustrative of the process.
Your Honor, permission to publish to the jury, please.
Yes, you may.
Dr. Levine, can you very briefly describe what this slide represents?
So normally two users on Meta's platforms, when they communicate, that what they're sending back and forth to one another is observable by Meta. But with end-to-end encryption, it puts that communication in a black box that Meta can't see. That's I think that's pretty brief and short.
Okay, and can you explain what the keys represent?
The keys represent that the content is encrypted with a key, a digital key, before it's sent, and then only once it's received would it be unencrypted. So the user would encrypt it, the other user that receives it decrypts it, and then vice versa.
And the blank screens, what does that represent?
Those are the phones of the two users.
Okay, and can anyone without those digital keys access the image?
That's correct.
Or the content of the communication?
That's right. Without those keys, you couldn't view that.
And as of today, has Meta implemented end-to-end encryption on some of its apps?
Some of its apps, some of them, it's implemented by default, meaning the user doesn't have to select it. And in other apps, the user has to say, I would like this. And
can you explain which is which?
As of today, I believe WhatsApp has been by default end-to-end encrypted since, from memory, 2016. Facebook Messenger has been by default. That started in December 2023. But it's not by default on Instagram direct message. But it is available to use, just not by default.
Okay. And did you observe whether Meta employees raised concerns about the move to end-to-end encryption by default internally?
I did.
And what happened?
Well, so this vision by Mr. Zuckerberg was announced, I assume, internally and then externally to the world. I believe it was around the middle of 2019. And then there was some discussion among the employees, including the child safety employees, about how this would really diminish their ability, if not eviscerate their ability, to provide child safety on their platforms.
Right. May we show the witness Plaintiff's Exhibit 00372? And Dr. Levine, when you have it, can you tell us whether this is a document you relied on in connection with informing your opinions in this case?
Here it is. Yes, it is.
Your Honor, permission to publish to the jury.
Yes, you may.
Right. We'll wait till it comes up.
I'm ready. Oh.
All right. What is this document, Dr. Levine?
So this is an email from a Meta employee who we can see has the first name of Jackie, and it's to a number of people at Meta, and in particular, it's to Mr. Zuckerberg. And the date is March 2019. As I was saying, this is the time when Mr. Zuckerberg announced his vision, if not this day, slightly after it to the world, and clearly at this point to employees.
And what is the subject line of this email?
The subject is initial internal sentiment, questions to answer in employee FYI, for your information.
And can you read out loud the paragraph from, well, first, before you read it, do you understand what this communication from Brandon represents?
Miss Jackie is sending 3 questions as representative of some of the concerns that employees had, and Mr. Brandon is one of the concerns that we could focus on.
And can you read out loud what Brandon wrote to be conveyed to Mr. Zuckerberg?
Yes. Mr. Brandon says, as someone who works on a child safety team, I simply can't bring myself to celebrate this. Based on our goal to make progress on social issues and the continued growth of MAU, monthly active users, MAU on Messenger and Instagram. How do we morally reconcile the undeniable impact end-to-end encryption will have on our ability to fight against the severe harm facing our most vulnerable users, child exploitation, terrorism, etc., in favor of messaging privacy that a majority of our users don't appear to be demanding?
As an expert in online child safety, do you agree with Brandon's position?
I think Brandon is spot on.
Did you consider any other documents reflecting internal concerns about end-to-end encryption by default?
I did.
Your Honor, may we show the witness Plaintiff's Exhibit 00599?
Yes, you may.
And Dr. Levine, is this another document that you relied on related to end-to-end encryption?
It is.
And Your Honor, may we publish to the jury?
Yes, you may.
And Dr. Levine, can you describe what this document is?
So this is a record of a chat between Ms. Antigone Davis, who's the global head of safety, and Andrea Saul, although her last name is also in the chat, different from the two. And it's a chat they're having about this vision of end-to-end encryption. It's just a couple of weeks before the last message that we read. So we're still in 2019.
Okay, and can you read the date of this chat?
Yes, it's February 12th, 2019.
And what about this document informed your opinions?
Well, these are concerns among the two of them, very well informed about child safety issues and informed about this move to end-to-end encryption. And they're expressing, just like the last email, how this will degrade the company's ability to keep children safe on its platforms.
And can you read out loud the first the first chat comment beginning, "Hi, Antigone"?
Hi, Antigone. I'm going to start putting some thoughts together regarding planning for encryption. While obviously real-world harm is the biggest risk from a reputational standpoint, would you agree with these risks? Anything I'm missing?
And then can you read out loud Andrea's response?
Or
Read
her
two sub 1 and 3, please.
Yes, CSER removal
I'm sorry,
numbers.
start with number 2, please.
Okay. Referrals to LE, which is law enforcement. Referrals to law enforcement will drastically decrease, especially for CT, which is probably counterterrorism, maybe cyber terrorism, especially for CT, CEI, and grooming.
Okay, and then under that,
Our ability to comply with,
if you can read subparagraph 1 for CT.
for CT, 98% of our proactive law enforcement referrals depend on messenger content.
And then now, I'm sorry, number
Okay.
3.
Our ability to comply with law enforcement requests will drastically decrease across the board. This is higher risk for CT, CEI, and grooming, as well as other potential criminal cases.
And then finally, can you read paragraph 4, the fourth risk mentioned in this section of the chat?
Groups like ISIS view this messaging system as the most useful for their core operation. Groomers have unfettered access to young people.
Is that consistent, by the way, with documents you reviewed in this case?
It is.
Okay. And finally, I'll ask you to read Antigone Davis's response starting at the quality and value. And then I'm going to ask you to explain to the jury why this document and how this document informed your opinions.
Okay. Ms. Davis says, the quality and value of our reports to NCMEC will drop dramatically, rendering them close to useless. And then, should I continue?
Yes, please.
Facebook allows pedophiles to find each other and kids via social graph with easy transition to Messenger. WhatsApp does not make it easy to make social connections, meaning making Messenger end-to-end encrypted will be far, far worse than anything we have seen, gotten a glimpse of on WhatsApp.
And how did you interpret what Ms. Davis was explaining here?
Well, I think I agree with her opinion that this is a danger to child safety. I want to say privacy is an important issue to adults. It's a complex issue. It's a nuanced issue in that privacy protections that we provide to adults are not always the best solutions for children, right? We do different things for children all over for society. And this is an extreme position to end-to-end encrypt everyone on the platform, children as young as 13, children they have stopped looking for who are under 13, any sort of minor who's connected to an adult. That sort of privacy solution just giving them end-to-end encryption is not the best solution for children. It is for adults on this platform.
And Ms. Davis talked here about the difference between WhatsApp and Facebook. Can you explain to the jury what she meant there?
I believe, or my takeaway from these sentences anyway, WhatsApp is a platform where two people can connect with one another, and Instagram is a platform where you connect with people based on topics. They have posts. There's more information about them. Platforms that have end-to-end encryption where there's not a social network and social media posts are very different. On Facebook and Instagram, we know already at this point that they know at this point that there's a lot of activity related to child exploitation, the distribution of what they call CEI. We know that there's grooming going on. We know they have suspected groomers who they're connecting with children. It always comes back to me to be about their recommendation algorithms. And now they're closing their eyes to it in yet another way. The first way was not to have good, or what I would consider safe practices regarding ages. And now we're saying, let's not look.
And does the recommendation algorithm that you described earlier in your testimony impact your view and Ms. Davis's view about end-to-end encryption?
Yes. So there's algorithms for recommendation, and some of the recommendations shouldn't be recommended. As they say, they're non-recommendable or they're harmful. So they use classifiers for that. Sometimes we discover they didn't even start on the classifier. But they need to train those classifiers based on ground truth. They need to see what happens on their platform to train the classifiers. And so now their classifiers that need to make use of this information won't be available. And even if they had trained them, they're going to drift in accuracy because it won't keep up with the times.
And are other encrypted are you familiar with other encrypted messaging services?
I am.
Can you give an example to the jury?
Apple has an end-to-end encrypted messaging system. There's also a popular one called Signal.
And do Signal or iMessage use recommendation algorithms to connect people?
No.
Does that impact your view of the safety of end-to-end encryption on Instagram and Facebook?
Yes, my opinion here today is about end-to-end encryption for children on Meta's platforms in particular, which is a social network that has these recommendation systems active and are used actively by who they call groomers, accounts that they've banned but have been recidivized, that they call recidivists. And so all of that together brings me to a conclusion that this is not safe for this platform.
And looking down this chat, Ms. Davis notes, and it's the message at 10:49. And she writes,
shall I read it? Or you?
I want to point you to one particular passage from it and ask your opinion on it. She wrote, "What we gain on the side of privacy, we will lose on the side of safety." Do you see where that is?
I do.
And what did that convey to you?
What she's saying is very similar to what I said, I believe. This is a nuanced issue, right? It's an extreme position of this vision of Mr. Zuckerberg's is extreme in that he's saying that the gains we will have for privacy results, she's saying, I believe, they will lose safety for children. You don't need to provide end-to-end encryption to everyone at once. It's a sophisticated company. They have thousands of employees. They're very well trained. Some of them are very well educated, I'm sure. And they don't need to do this blanket extreme rollout of this and keep their children safe. And she's, really talking about that tension here.
And then Ms. Davis wrote further down, "We will manage because we have to. Maybe we will even find brilliant integrity solutions." Based on what you've seen in Meta's discovery in this case, did Meta, and from other information, did you find that Meta found a brilliant integrity solution?
I didn't find that they did. And if they did find a solution that worked well without the information that end-to-end encryption is putting in a black box, wouldn't it work even better if they had both signals for them to act on? They're tying a hand behind their back, in my opinion.
Did end-to-end encryption, I'm sorry, and do you have any understanding as to whether the implementation of end-to-end encryption, this cough drop was a real mistake, end-to-end encryption today has hindered law enforcement's ability to pursue child safety issues on Meta's platforms? Yes, and here's why. The reason is that, first of all, when Meta takes their eye off the ball by putting, too many metaphors here, when Meta uses end-to-end encryption and can't examine what's going on their platform, they, in those cases where there's child exploitation related
communications and activity going on, they can't tell law enforcement about it. So there's no cyber tip there. In the case that may generate an investigation. Secondly, it could be something is reported outside of Meta's platforms about child exploitation. And it could be in that type of investigation, the perpetrator's phone or the child's phone is recovered. And the law enforcement may then follow up with Meta, among other companies, but they may follow up with Meta. This is what we're concerned about today. What else can you tell me about this? For example, what else has happened to this victim? What else has happened with this perpetrator? Meta no longer has that information. They could keep that just for children. They could keep it just for children they suspect being under 13, just for children who are 13, just for minors. There's a lot of options here that they did not consider, instead went for this extreme view. And if I could just say one couple more sentences, even if the CSAM is not of the child that is part of the conversation, law enforcement rely on cyber tips as a legal authoritative reason to spend time going to someone's house and investigating what happened. And I've spent a lot of, in my report to Congress, and I have my own peer-reviewed publication on what percentage of the time when law enforcement execute a search warrant at a home due to the distribution of CSAM, do they end up rescuing a child from abuse? Not necessarily the child, often not the child that is captured in the image, right? So it's an opportunity lost to rescue a child.
Dr. Levine, did you look at other internal documents in the lead up to Meta's decision to implement end-to-end encryption by default?
I did.
And I'd asked to publish Plaintiff's Exhibit 00634 to the witness.
Yes.
Right. Do you recognize this as a document you relied on, Dr. Levine?
I do.
Your Honor, may we publish to the jury?
Yes.
All right, Dr. Levine, what is this document?
This is a internal chat between a number of Meta employees. We'll just refer to right here. One of them is named Anuj.
Okay, and what is the date of this chat?
The date is September 29th, 2021. So this is a couple years later.
Okay, so it's a couple of years after the Brilliant Integrity Solutions
Yes.
question. Okay. All right, can you read the paragraph that is under Catherine at 1646?
Yeah.
All I can say?
So she says, all I can say is that I fully support excluding all under 13, U13, it says children under the age of 13. What I can say is that I fully support excluding all under 13 messaging from end-to-end encryption. We have ample evidence that the highest volume of inappropriate interactions with children, IIC, comes from via messaging. Currently, the majority of these violations are captured by our scanning, not by user reporting. We have not yet developed a highly effective way to alert parents to potential problems in a way that appropriately garners their attention to the most serious issues, even on MK Messenger Kids, which has been working on this for a while. Full sharing of tween messages with their parents' guardians will simply push them off the platform. End-to-end encryption should be viewed as an adult product, full stop.
And does this suggest to you whether as of this time in 2021, this Meta employee believed that there had been a solution to the integrity issues involved in end-to-end encrypting children's communications?
My understanding is she does not believe there is a solution.
And what else did you draw, if anything, from
Well,
this communication?
I drew that she apparently agrees with me. This doesn't have to be an extreme decision to make it for all platforms under Meta's control. You can have different solutions for children. Children are protected differently than in our society than adults are protected, particularly when it comes to privacy.
And Dr. Levine, I think you've already covered this, but did Meta ultimately did Meta ultimately implement end-to-end encryption by default on Messenger?
Yes, on Facebook Messenger, I believe starting in December 2023.
And is end-to-end encryption available on Instagram?
It's available, but not by default, is my understanding.
Okay. And on both of these products, can or is end-to-end encryption used for conversations involving children?
That's my understanding.
And was there any carve out for any other categories like groomers or risky adults?
No, I mean, they could have, for example, they didn't have to offer end-to-end encryption to accounts they already suspected of inappropriate interactions with children or some type of grooming.
Okay. And are there any other documents, Dr. Levine, that you identified related to end-to-end encryption that were important to your opinions?
Yes.
Like to show the witness plaintiff's exhibit 01959.
Yes, you may.
And Dr. Levine, did you also rely on this document?
I did.
Your Honor, permission to publish this document to the jury.
Yes, coming up.
All right, Dr. Levine, what and when is this document?
This is another internal chat of Meta employees. Their first names are there, and this is the date we were just talking about, December 2023, when they rolled out end-to-end encryption by default on Facebook Messenger.
Okay, and situate us in time from the Antigone Davis email and then the one we just looked at, how we progressed.
This is more than 2 years later, if I recall the date.
Okay, and I think Ms. Davis's email was 2019.
It was 2019. I just don't recall the month.
Okay, let's look at the comment from Johnny at 6:40. Can you read out loud what this says and what it means in your opinion?
Johnny says to Charles, he says, all good. Yeah, we'll lose a ton of recall due to end-to-end encryption.
And what does that mean?
So this they're talking about child exploitation on the platform, and recall is a scientist term for how much of what's available to capture did you capture, right? What fraction of child exploitation on the platform are they losing because of end-to-end encryption?
Okay. And
Losing
so-
detection of is what I mean, of course.
Okay, so what is Johnny communicating about what's being lost on recall?
The ability to rescue children because they're able to detect that something related to child safety is going on their platform.
Okay, and then moving down, can you read, you know how Rory tells?
You know how Rory tells you to stop looking under rocks? The entire company just put a big rug down to cover the rocks.
And the next comment,
Nothing to see here, smiley face.
what did you understand that to mean?
So I take this to mean that they'd already received either formal or informal direction to stop looking for harms. But regardless of what I understand from the first part of the sentence, he's saying the entire company just put a big rug down saying, don't look here. We don't want to know.
And is that consistent with your own opinion as to what had happened with end-to-end encryption?
That's a good metaphor for what they're doing.
Okay, and then let's continue with the comments, Charles at 6:46 and Johnny's response.
Charles says, I love how we set up all those fancy metrics and hit those goals, but still we get a Wall Street Journal article every other day. And then Johnny says, which is why we have ROAR, recall over all reports, the made up metric for journalists. And so what I believe this to be is rather than looking at the true recall of all child exploitation happening on the platform, they're restricting it to just user reports. Users don't report very well. I believe we saw that earlier today. It was Meta's characterization of that. Children are scared to report. One of the first jobs that is often started, or at least one of the important jobs of grooming, is to silence the victim. Don't want someone reporting when you're harming them. So relying on user reports is particularly problematic. So that's what their comment is here.
Okay, and then let's turn to page 2. Can you turn to that next page and read the first 3 lines out loud from Charles?
So directly after Charles says, had I shared this with you and it's a URL and I can tell from the URL that it's in fact the complaint that's redacted in this case that we're in here today.
And how does Charles comment on that?
He says, commenting on the content of the complaint, he says, the instructions are still current, easy as anything to view CSAM on Instagram. And then may I continue? And he continues, but the good thing is we'll handle it, quote, sometime next half, end quote, during the keyword project, which I take to mean to be a little bit of sarcasm there. He's saying, sure, what he hears again and again is we'll handle it later. They're punting.
And so what did you understand the earlier comments to mean about the instructions are still current, easy as anything to view CSAM on Instagram?
Well, the complaint includes a description of how to find CSAM on Instagram.
Your Honor, objection. May I approach?
Yes, you may.
All right, Dr. Levine, without commenting on the contents of the complaint, can you describe what you understand these employees to be conveying here?
Well, I think minimally it says the last half is important. I believe Charles is confirming that it's as easy as anything to view CSAM on Instagram. I think it's very self-explanatory.
Okay, and remind us of the time period of this chat.
This is December 2023, and this is contemporaneous, simultaneous with their rollout of end-to-end encryption by default on Facebook direct messenger.
Okay. In your opinion, is encrypting communications with children consistent with a zero tolerance policy towards child exploitation?
It's not. It's an extreme move.
And as of the time of this internal communication in December 14th, 2023, did you understand whether Meta professionals were still expressing frustration or cynicism about where the company stood on child safety?
Objection leading.
All right.
I can rephrase, Your
Please
Honor.
do.
What did you understand as of this point in December 2023 about employees' views on child safety at Meta?
Well, this document that we just looked at, for example, expresses a lot of concern by employees who I believe are in child safety and about how that change would affect their ability to look for that type of harm to children on its platform. Again, where they're recruiting people who are minors to mix with adults on the platform and by default encrypt things.
And even putting encryption aside, did you interpret this communication to be a reflection more broadly on child safety at Meta?
I did.
In what way?
Well, I think we saw a few different documents here today where people expressed concern about this move forward and what it would do to their ability to have a handle on their platform. It would prevent them from measuring, for example. It would prevent them from reporting. It would prevent law enforcement from acting, whether the report was generated by Meta or elsewhere and then led to Meta.
Okay. We're going to shift topics again. Earlier yesterday, we looked at a press release from Meta regarding giving young people a safer, more private experience, and we focused on the connections between potentially suspicious accounts and minors. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
Can we pull 2766, which is that document, back up, please? In your honor, with your permission, may we publish it to the jury again?
Yes. See, if possible, you could move the microphone down a little bit, just closer to you, I think.
Oh.
Just to make sure everyone can hear you.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes, I think so. They'll confirm. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, we got to keep you on the edge of your seat. The jury too. Okay, is this the document that you recall us discussing?
Yes.
And I want to turn to page 2 and focus on another feature. Do you see the section defaulting people under 16 in private accounts?
I do.
And can you explain to the jury the change that Meta was announcing? And just to remind us, this is July 7th, 2021.
Right. So we're a couple of years back now. And so this idea, sometimes it's referred to as private by default, is they're referring to users under 16. And rather than making them public accounts, they'd be private, and that would hide them from more people in the general public, other users that they don't know explicitly, for example. That's the general idea.
And how did you understand that this announcement said it would change how adults could find or interact with kids under 16?
It would make it harder for them to find those minors under 16 because they wouldn't be returned in Meta's recommendations, for example.
And did you assess whether Meta had considered defaulting teens to private by default accounts before July 2021?
I assessed whether they considered this before that date.
Okay. And did you review any documents
I
in
did.
making that assessment? Let's pull up, if we could, Your Honor, Plaintiff's Exhibit 00237 for the witness.
Yes, you may.
Dr. Levine, is this a document, once you have it, that you reviewed in connection with your work on this case?
Yes, it is.
Permission to publish to the jury, Your Honor.
Coming up.
So stepping back from 2021, what is the date of this document?
This is a document capturing a chat between employees, and it's August 29th, 2019. So we're 2 years before the last document or so,
Okay, before the announcement.
before the announcement, the public announcement.
Okay. And can you explain the context, what's going on in this email or chat?
In this chat, there's several employees talking about the private by default, essentially, the mechanism we just were discussing that was deployed 2 years later, roughly 2 years later,
Okay.
and the concerns they have about it.
Okay. And can you read the sentence that begins in the first comment from Maria, Adam, and Vishal?
It says, I just caught up with Brett and he forgot to give us some relevant feedback in the morning review around private accounts. It seems that in the Tuesday review for well-being, which is a team, Adam and Vishal both pushed on us starting to move towards creating accounts private by default.
And the next line, Dr. Levine?
The ask in that meeting was apparently how to go about testing the effects of that.
Okay. And was this potential change being discussed here limited to younger teens, 16 and under?
That is my, well, I think they're considering what age to do it in.
Okay. Do you see in the next comment from Maria, or two down,
Mhm.
we think this is useful for whom we think, cohorts for whom we think this is useful, teens, 13 to 18, et cetera?
Correct.
Okay. Does that inform your opinion about what they were looking at?
They were looking at a mechanism to improve the safety of minors on their platform.
Okay. For what group?
For,
Under 16, all teens?
well, you're supposed to be 13 and above on the platform, so anyone under 18 to 13.
Okay. And then let's look at the comment from Brett at 1610.
I think you mean 14, 16?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
14, 16. I'm sorry.
It is 14, 16, 10, but
Okay.
Brett says, thanks. I just got looped into a thread here from Sam. I asked about default to private versus defaulting to no DMing, direct messaging from people you aren't connected to as part of private account. My point of view is that the latter would be more impactful for bullying. We have tested this in the past and it has been very negative for ecosystem metrics, if I recall correctly.
And what did you understand this comment to be about?
Well, they're considering different options, and they are concerned about ecosystem metrics, which engagement is what I take that to mean, essentially indirectly revenue.
Okay. And were there comments further down in this chat that confirmed that understanding?
Yes.
Okay. And let's start with Darius Kilstein at 1420. Can you read that out loud?
So Mr. Kilstein asks in the chat, what's the rationale? Well, I'll
Go
just
ahead.
start
And
with,
hopefully
okay.
you'll have the court's indulgence in reading this.
Okay, if I may, Your Honor. He says, holy shit, what's the rationale for the push? This will likely smash engagement, DAP, MAP, et cetera, here meaning daily active persons, monthly active persons. And then, do you want me to continue?
Yes, please.
Then the colleague Maria responds to what's the rationale. She says, current climate, policy pressure, potentially contributing to teen suicides.
And keep reading down to where Darius Kilstein says, I see.
Darius Kilstein responds, what policy pressure? And Maria responds, what are we doing to protect minors? And Darius Kilstein responds, I see.
And why was this exchange significant to you?
Well, here we see, again, immediately, as soon as possible, it seems to me, that there's a discussion about how to introduce a safety mechanism for children on the platform. One of the main concerns brought up immediately is, what about engagement? I mean, literally the word engagement. So there's always a tension they're balancing. What is this going to do to our revenue indirectly, is what I'm saying.
And did you look at other Meta internal documents about defaulting teens into private accounts?
I did.
May we show the witness Plaintiff's Exhibit 00239?
Yes, you may.
And Dr. Levine, when you have it, I'll ask whether this is another document you considered.
This is another document.
And Your Honor, permission to publish to the jury as well.
Yes, you may.
And Dr. Levine, once that comes up, can you explain to the jury what this document is?
So this is an email exchange between a number of Meta employees. It is dated January 23rd, 2020. So this is a little bit later. This is about almost 6 months later or so.
Okay. And,
maybe a little less 5 months later.
okay, can you read the subject line, please?
It says regarding 123 community leads review on timeline and risk for defaulting teens to private.
So do you have an understanding as to whether at this point in January of 2020, Meta had started defaulting teens to private by default accounts?
From this email, I do have that understanding.
And what is that?
Well, so keep in mind, we just looked at an email from a few months before, but we're ahead of the public announcement by more than a year. And so what they say here, if you look at the items under number 2, enumerated as 2, they're saying they have 2 concerns. May I read some of it to make it clear?
Please go ahead.
Okay, so number 2 says conviction to ship private by default for teens, even if account model safety data and map mitigation come back neutral, which we don't predict will happen. And then under account model measurement, it says, even if we are unable to measure positive safety increases in account model changes at the end of the half, meaning mid-2020, we are still confident in shipping updates with the conviction that they are right for our users. Well, this is great. And then it continues, map mitigation, monthly active persons. The graph product team will take our best shot at map mitigation in the first half of the year. But if we are unable to mitigate map drop as a result of tests, we're still confident in landing the private by default experience for teens as the, quote, right thing to do, but not adults. So I like this because here they are really saying, well, we get it. There are 2 things we're going to balance here in our business model, but we're going to do the right thing, even if it comes back not what we're expecting or not what we're hoping.
Okay. And did you see documents after this January 2020 document relating to what played out on private by default?
I did.
May we show the witness plaintiff's exhibit 00248?
Yes, you may.
And Dr. Levine, I think it's on your screen too.
Okay.
Is this another document that you looked at informing your opinions?
I'm sorry, what number is it again?
00248.
Oh, 248. But yes, I know this document and I relied on it.
Your Honor, permission to publish to the jury.
Yes, you.
Oh, okay, I'm ready.
All right. And now we are too. What is this document, Dr. Levine?
Okay, so now we're in October of this year of 2020, and we're still ahead of the public announcement that we looked at. And so on October 30th, 2020, an employee named Edward is having a chat with Mr. Kilstein.
And so now how far out are we from the first document we saw where Meta is considering private by default for teens?
We're more than a year for sure.
And how long is this after the last document where Meta is declaring its conviction?
Well, that was in January, if I recall correctly. And now here we are in the latter half of the year after presumably those tests have concluded. They would do in that half of the year.
And why did you focus on this document?
Because there's discussion about the outcome of the test where we saw their intention was to do, quote, the right thing.
And by the way, based on your observation of your review of other Meta documents, what's happening during this year or more where Meta is testing and considering private by default?
Well, we saw, just before this, we saw discussion of PMYK and how that was facilitating, in Meta's words, connections between people they labeled as groomers to teens they didn't know. We saw documents that said there were inappropriate interactions with children at the rate of 500,000 children a day.
Okay.
Just on Instagram. And then they said something like a third of that happening on Facebook, if I recall the numbers.
So is this time period significant from your perspective as
Absolutely.
an online child safety expert?
Absolutely.
All right, let's turn to Darius Kilstein's comment at 0047.
Mr. Kilstein says, have we considered settings to just let people turn off receiving messages from people that don't follow them?
And keep going through Edward.
Yeah, so Mr. Edward responds, we have, and Instagram well-being even explored private by default for teens, but the growth impact was too high and the decision was to explore more nuanced and less blunt solutions, which is how we got here.
And last sentence, please.
he says,
Or the
yeah,
next one.
or yes, yeah, private by default was my team. And there's a little emoji type thing, emoticon. And he says, it wasn't an elegant solution. Nobody looked at the messaging solution though.
And then can you read Edward's comments on page 2 at 0050?
Up at the top.
Yes, these restrictions.
These restrictions on messaging and recommendations/search are what we have on Facebook today. We need to have some equivalency on Instagram. For example, People You May Know was responsible for 80% of violating adult-minor connections. Meta's recommendation system is responsible for that.
Okay, and I want to stop here and see if this resonates with some themes we've talked about. Is this, in your opinion, another example of Instagram being treated differently than Facebook?
Absolutely, even though, as we've seen, there's, by their records, more children on Instagram.
Okay, and what was the difference here?
The difference here is that there's no restrictions on messaging like there is on Facebook.
Okay. And then PYMK, you read, was responsible for 80% of violating adult-minor connections.
Correct.
And is that a percentage that troubles you as an online child safety expert?
Absolutely. 80% of the connections they're serving up on a silver platter.
And do you recall looking at the 2018 document on inappropriate interactions with children?
I do.
And can we pull that document back up? It was previously published to the jury, Your Honor. Let's look back. So this is September 2018, correct?
Correct.
And let's look at page 2. And can you remind us the statistic on PYMK as a victim discovery channel for Facebook?
The item number 2.
Yes.
So here it's saying that 75% of victims were suggested to IIC accounts, not all adults, IIC accounts, that it was responsible 75% of the time, to paraphrase the slide.
And did you see a connection between these documents in your expert opinion?
Absolutely, right? We see the same pattern. We see the same, we see a problem. We saw them provide a solution, test it, and then withdraw it because of growth concerns, is what I recall the phrase being. Engagement.
And is PYMK and recommendations a common denominator between these two presentations now
Absolutely.
several years apart?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we can pull this down, please. Was private by default implemented as suggested in 2020?
Only in the test, not just
For
in
the
test.
public?
For the public, no. The announcement for that, I think, was July 2021.
And when was the version of private by default for teens 16 and under ultimately implemented?
That was July 2021.
Did you see, Dr. Levine, any documents regarding harms that potentially could have been prevented during that time period?
Yes.
Objection leading.
All right, overruled, developing testimony.
Before we turn to that document, based on your knowledge of computer science, did the technology exist to default kids into private accounts before 2021?
Absolutely. This is not a significant computer science outcome. They're just talking about taking accounts that they believe or have been told are minors, and then just not offering them a feature. It's not an advanced algorithm. It's just a policy decision. There's no research that has to be done. And this is a very advanced company, and it's their code that we're talking about. They built this.
Let's ask you to look, if you could, at Plaintiff's Exhibit 02173. And I'll ask you if that's a document you reviewed informing your opinions.
It is.
Your Honor, may we publish this document to the jury? All right, what is this document, Dr. Levine?
So this document captures an internal chat at the company, and now we're in November 2020. So recall, this is after they've done the test where they were going to do the right thing but then pulled it. But before they eventually did it, let's say 9 months later. So it's a conversation between a number of employees.
Okay, and let's look at what Puya writes in November 2020 at 6:51.
She says, for example, IIC is currently not even basic.
And stop there. What did you understand that to mean?
That their ability to detect that and do something about it is not even at the basic level. And we're here in 2020.
And if you skip down 2 lines, Puya announces that, or describes that she's working on a solution for this SEV on IIC. Can you explain to the jury if you know what an SEV is?
So an SEV or SEV is Meta's term for a site event. It's a severe problem that's happening on their platform, as users, that is available to users. It's not developing. It's something that's happening right now on their code that's available to users, and it's a problem to them and high impact.
Okay, and then let's see what Puya wrote at 6:55 PST. And I'm going to read this one. BTW, by the way, this SEV is particularly painful. Thousands of minors have been reporting IIC T1 abuse. And even though we knew that there is IIC T1 going on, parens, more than 50% of which is sextortion, which can lead to suicide, close parens, we haven't done anything. We had a broken escalation path and no measurement. God knows what happened to those kids. Did you see this? Did this inform your opinion in this case?
Definitely.
And was there a connection between this chat, in your opinion, and the delay in private by default?
Well, so what happened? They were considering private by default. They had a meeting. They decided to test it out. They had the conviction to say, we're going to do the right thing. And then we saw from previous document right about this time, before this time, they decided not to do it. And now they have a severe event, a bug of some kind on their platform that is in regard to minors who are reporting interactions with adults related to child exploitation, grooming, and sextortion. And she's right. As I've said, I believe yesterday, sextortion leads to suicide. The FBI is trying to get this message out. And then she says, God knows what's happened to these kids. And I just have to wonder, would this SEV had been as severe if private by default had been launched in the first place? This didn't need to happen, it seems.
Okay, let's wrap up. Dr. Levine, a few last questions. Meta's talked in this case about tens of thousands of safety staff working to keep teens safe on its platforms. In your opinion, are Meta staffing levels a meaningful measure of child safety?
Well, I think, of course, it's important that they have staff, period, to do this. But my analysis, my methodology here and my report are based on the outcomes. Maybe they had 6 employees, maybe they had 60,000 working on safety. What matters is what happened in the end. What were they able to accomplish? It's not enough to just hire them. You have to do something.
And based on the information you reviewed in this case, has Meta made design choices that endanger children on its platforms?
They have. Let's not forget, they are, as I said, I believe, a quintessential tech company of this time. They control the computers that these messages that users use. They decide what users to let on. They decide what code to deploy. They don't ask anyone for permission to make changes for the code. They decide on the policy. They decide on what to enforce. They decide so much about the platform. And in the end, I don't believe they made decisions that were independent of revenue, that put kids first, and they often just decided to put their heads under the sand.
And did you find that the child safety issues that you've talked about over the course of your testimony persisted over a period of time at Meta?
Yeah, I think that's one of the larger overriding issues here. They had safety issues and they would note that. But then a year later, another employee would see the same thing. A year later, another employee would see the same thing. A journalist would sit down, or I would sit down in 2023, years later, and in minutes can find the same thing. Sure, they recognize problems, but did they have a pattern of actually addressing it? When problems were pointed out, could they quickly fix them? No. And that tells me that this is systemic. It's what they built. It's their design and the systems that were there. It's not as easily fixed.
Did you determine, could Meta have acted more quickly, in your opinion, based on your knowledge of computer science and online child safety? Could Meta have acted more quickly to take steps to make children safe on its platforms?
Objection leading.
All right.
Could Meta have acted more quickly?
Certainly, please rephrase.
Okay. Do you have an opinion on Meta's technological capacity to address these problems?
So many of the solutions they adopted were really changes in policy that just needed to be enforced. Certainly technology has evolved. Meta is an older company at this point and new solutions became available to them. But many of the solutions were really just, we just talked about private by default. That's not an advanced solution. It doesn't require machine learning. That wasn't available until then. It's pretty simple. And they just decided not to enforce these things or not provide them. And what I found in reading over, as I said, items in discovery in the public, they were really pushed forward by external pressure, not by their own decisions in the end for the vast majority of the mechanisms for child safety.
And you just talked, Dr. Levine, about policies. Did you determine whether Meta enforced the policies that it had in place for child safety?
Well, we saw in documents that we reviewed, their characterization of it is we do not enforce these policies for a variety of different policies that were there.
And do policies that aren't enforced help keep kids safe?
I don't believe so. Again, safety by design, right? Let's look at the outcomes. What is the outcome of a policy that is not enforced? You might as well not have the policy.
And based on your expertise and your review of documents in this case, did you find that bad actors try to exploit children on Meta's platforms and avoid detection?
Objection leading.
All right, overruled. You may continue.
I did find that actors did that. We know that from their NCMEC reports, which indicate to me that this was a hub of activity. The vast number of reports said that even if we cleaned it up, more were there. We saw their own characterization of just how much activity related to child exploitation was happening. We saw their own employees' concerns year after year, and we saw them walk back decisions that would have helped children and could have averted disaster. And as as we just saw, the characterization was, well, so I'll just leave it at that.
Is it your opinion that Meta was capable of addressing these bad actors?
Absolutely. The privacy, the safety options they had available, some of which they did later, again, are not advanced computer science. And even if they were, this is one of the most capable companies in the world. They're hiring very capable people with extraordinary salaries, extraordinary educations. I don't know how many PhDs they have on there, how many industry professionals. They're known as they're known as having employees with a tremendous skill. So I don't know if in the end they really didn't have that skill or whether they were directed not to provide the solutions.
And based on your review of documents and your expertise, did Meta accurately disclose to parents, teens, and the public the risks to children and teens on its platforms?
Objection leading.
And counsel, please rephrase.
Okay. In your opinion, Dr. Levine, what did you observe about Meta's disclosures to the public, teens, and parents about safety?
What I observed that they said in public was that they had, zero tolerance. They said this to reporters. I saw it reported by reporters. I saw it in a document they submitted to an investigation in the UK. And I don't believe that reflects the evidence that we've all discussed over the last 2 days. I don't think you can put those up together and say there's parity. They stand in stark contrast. And I'm concerned. As I said when I started, I have a site called App Danger. It's directed towards parents to help them make informed decisions. There's not enough information out there. Parents need transparency from Meta to make informed decisions about whether they should allow their children on these platforms and what risk it provides them. When there's problems in Meta's platforms, there's no notification that goes out. When your credit is stolen, identity theft, a lot of companies by law will send you information. There's just not enough information out there for these kind of decisions to be made. And so when there's disparity between these kinds of statements, it's a real problem in my mind.
And we've talked about zero tolerance, Dr. Levine. Meta may ask you whether it's reasonable to expect it to reduce CSAM and child exploitation to zero. In your expert opinion, is that the right question?
No, I don't believe so. No one's talking about getting the number of events on their platforms down to zero. We're far from zero on this platform. I'm looking for actions. I think they could have taken actions that would have gone a long way towards reducing what we actually saw. They could have made decisions according to safety by design that would have gone a long way to avoiding what I read happened and what I observed personally on their platforms. And I think if that had been the case, I think more children would have been safe, fewer images would have been distributed, perpetrators wouldn't have been able to find each other and train each other on how to groom, on how to evade detection. And this community in hubs, as Mr. Nick put it, perhaps would have been lesser.
I have nothing further for this witness.
All right, thank you, Counselor. So let me ask council, just noting the time, do you want to start for a few minutes before lunch, or is now a good time to take lunch?
I'm happy to get started and use our time before lunch for a little bit.
Okay, we can certainly do that.
Oh, thank you.
All four for me? Okay. Thanks.
Professor Levine, you testified about what Meta calls inappropriate interactions with children, right?
I did.
Meta employees sometimes use the shorthand IIC, right?
That's what I saw.
And the goal with IIC is to capture all unwanted messages and other interactions between adults and children, right?
I focused on documents I saw in Discovery that were related to child exploitation.
So in practice, Meta will consider a conversation IIC if it's between a person it believes to be over 18 and a person it believes to be under 18, and it has any sexual content, right?
It appeared that way to me in the documents that I focused on.
I want to pull up PX 1730. This would be in your binder from the plaintiffs. This is a document that you looked at yesterday, and I believe you actually pulled up again today.
Okay, 1 second. Should I look for it in your binder or my binder?
The first binder that Ms. Singer gave you. I also can give you a handout if that would be easier.
You're saying the binder I've been using all along?
Yes.
Yes, okay,
yes,
I'm sorry.
Exactly. And it's 1730, PX 1730.
I see it.
Okay, great. You testified that this document is from around 2018, 2019, right?
That's my understanding.
Let's start with the executive summary of this document. This document describes an investigation where Meta employees conducted several tests looking at inappropriate interactions with minors on Instagram, right?
I see that.
Let's flip to page 3 of the document where it says tests.
Testing.
Testing, yes.
Okay.
So this section, see, it's the larger heading is testing, and then under that there's a bullet that says tests. That's where I want to focus.
I see.
So this section explains, and it follows on to the next page, that Meta employees ran 6 tests, right?
Yes.
So for example, if you look at test 3, Meta employees made a test account, they followed a bunch of creepy hashtags, and they wanted to see what recommendations they got in search, right?
I see that.
And similarly for test 4, they made a test account, they followed several teen grooming accounts to see what recommendations they would get, right?
I see that.
Okay, so like if we look under results, which is on page 4, the second bullet here describes the results of tests 1 through 3, right?
Yep.
And then if you look down the page, there's another bullet with the results of tests 4 through 6.
Correct.
So look back at page 3. Yesterday, there's this evidence section here. We look at that about recommending groomers to follow minors. Yesterday, you told the jury over and over and over again that these bullets described real groomers that Meta knew were groomers and let stay on Instagram, didn't you?
I referred often to documents where Meta was referring to IIC accounts, and my understanding of the definition of IIC is that it included behavior, including grooming.
But specifically this document and this part of this document, you said that when Meta referred to groomers in this document, it was referring to real groomers on Instagram, didn't you?
I don't know whether I said real groomers, but I'm reading this now, and it says we recommend to this is compared to 26% of people we recommend to groomers were teens. That's their label.
But in fact, this evidence is the result of 6 tests that Meta employees ran where they mimicked what they thought groomers might do, right?
Okay.
So in fact, these were Meta employees who were proactively looking for problems so they could fix them and prevent real grooming, right?
Well, I believe the outcome of this test is what's important. The outcome is that Meta's recommendation system recommended to Meta employees firsthand knowledge of what can be done by other people on their system. And I just would also like to point out, I saw the same behavior in 2023 from the platform.
Professor Levine, you've never worked at Meta, right?
No, I have not.
Doesn't the fact that you completely misunderstood this document suggest to the jury that you should be listening to what Meta employees have to say about what they actually did rather than your reading of the document many years later?
My overall opinion was based not on this singular document. It was based on the documents that we saw today. I wrote a report that was over 150 pages. There were many, many documents that unfortunately we don't have the time to get here. If you want to cherry pick a single sentence from a single document and ask me if it changes my opinion, as well as my own personal experience on the platform years later with this kind of stuff, then I would say it doesn't change my opinion.
Professor Levine, this is a document you chose to rely on and discuss with the jury yesterday, is it not?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
This is a document that you chose and cherry picked to show to the jury, right?
I didn't cherry pick it. This is a document that resulted from a search. I spent a lot of time on a platform that
Professor Levine, you chose this document, did you not?
I chose this document as part of many documents that are part of my report.
And you specifically testified about this document and told the jury yesterday that this document was about real groomers, didn't you?
I conveyed what I understood this document to be about, and I thought that it related to other documents that Meta employees reported about groomers on their platform.
Okay. So by this point, you said this is about 2018, 2019, Meta already had a policy against inappropriate interactions with children, right?
They had a policy, that's correct.
And in fact, Meta had been reporting inappropriate interactions with children to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for over 6 years, right?
I think that's an important point. The number of reports they made to NCMEC was significant.
And in 2018, right after these tests, or around 2018, Meta built a tool to automatically and proactively look for these kinds of inappropriate interactions, didn't it?
Yes, and what I would ask is how effective was that tool?
Okay. Your Honor, now might be a good stopping point for lunch.
All right, agreed. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll stop now for lunch. We're going to reconvene in here about 1:15. Have a good lunch. Adhere to the court's instructions as you always do, and we'll see you early this afternoon. Have a good lunch, please.
All rise for the jury. agree, but they're not mad about it, I'm just saying, I don't.
is a live dispute. So before I launch into all the reasons why the Instagram stuff shouldn't come in, and that's the problem that I had with my conversation with Mr. Action is that they don't think they're going to use it, and if they're not going to use it, I don't want to waste the court's time and my time arguing about it. So maybe we should start there. I will not use it on direction. I will use it if I'm going on. I don't either, but I'm also not going to predict it. All right. Yeah. I can assure you I'm not going to be asking about Instagram on trust. Okay, so that leaves the second issue, which is that the state disclosed the 2014 internal meta document that contains more than 100 images of graphic eating disorders and self-harm content. That's PX 2328. And again, I wonder if the state's planning to use this one, and I don't want to waste the court's time if they are not. We're not going to that. We're not going to show those really bad. So unless there is some suggestion on cross that there are no graphic images, or that the testimony can't be based on graphic images, we're not planning to publish to the jury two documents that contain graphic images. What Dr. Taylor do is describe material he has seen that we're not going to show that. I'm not going to show graphic images. Including PX 2328. Correct. And Your Honor, if I may approach, I just want to hand Your Honor this one because we did not attach it because of the graphic nature. I just want to make sure they're all on the same page. Is this a document? Yeah. Well, if we're not going to use it, then we don't have to take up time with it. The third issue, Your Honor, is that the state disclosed the 5-minute Molly Russell video of extremely disturbing and graphic suicide and self-injury content that Ms. Russell purportedly saw before her tragic death. And the court has already excluded the video from Mr. Russell's deposition. Now, I understand from the state that they don't intend to show the video, but my understanding from what the state represented, and I believe this is accurate, that they anticipate Dr. Kane describing the video. And we think, obviously it's not as bad as showing the video, but we think it has the same prejudicial problem as showing the video. The court has already held that the video shouldn't come in connection with Mr. Russell's deposition, who actually had some knowledge about it, as opposed to Dr. Kane, who had no knowledge about it. And we think really this is an end run around the court's ruling with respect to Mr. Russell's deposition. It's highly prejudicial stuff. It contains extremely disturbing content. And an expert witness describing the very content that this court has already held should be kept out, we think has no probative value and really only serves to inflame the jury. So we would ask the court to exclude the description of this video under Rule 403, under hearsay, under a lot of, all the grounds that we've been arguing. I think it's a Section 230 problem. And I just don't think it's appropriate for a doctor who's going to come talk about her treatment of patients in New Mexico to be testifying about some third-hand video she saw about stuff that happened in the UK. That is speaking to other aspects of social media cause harm to children. One of the things we rely on is that we're not going to show the video to the jury. I understand that fully. And understand the jury. But the notion that video has no probative value, I think, is a vast overstatement.
That video contains material that was shown to Molly Russell on Instagram that was adjudicated to have led to her suicide. And for her to say, I've seen the video and it's similar to material that patients have shown me on their phones is absolutely probative. You're allowed to prove a case, Ron. At some point, I don't want to, we are very sensitive. Shocking is good. I'm not trying to do that. But at the same time, there is a point at which it can't be the case that we are simply not allowed to reference material that appeared on the platform. Assuming I ask the question, would you create a Molly Russell video from the is the objection going to be at that point, or is it going to be when the witness says, well, I don't know, at that point, based on the video, we'll get over this. But when there is a description, it is just some sort of for the show, at that point, I would get that I The only other thing I'd note, Your Honor, is there also is a cumulative miscomplaint here. So again, it depends on the context. There's been a lot of description of this type of video, and then this is the cherry on the cake. I need to jump up and object on that kind of stuff. Are different than ones that occur over hours or days. So, definitely make these events, definitely can make that objection. If you wish to do so, but I do think that very much. Thank you, Your Honor. The last point, and I'm not going to belabor this, is because Your Honor, I think, has essentially ruled on it. But we just want to reiterate our objection to the use of these experts to put a bunch of documents up on the screen that are not the kind of documents that experts in this field will use. We saw a lot of this for hours on end with Dr. Levine. We're going to see it again with Dr. Kane. There's no way that child psychiatrists rely on chat exchanges between employees of tech companies. And we just think it's improper for them to be putting type of expert actually relies on in their field and read through. But we object to it, especially again given the cumulative nature of it. On one level, we're completely reading what you're saying. That might be one thing, but I've been working to apply these rules and publishing and not submitting. I think I'm doing a great job of listening to everyone we know. And we'll continue to track that. Fair enough, Your Honor. I just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you.
only item on the agenda for Friday that we've been discussing is the deco videos that the state has suggested to Meta using. But we're happy to take that up tonight if that is coming to schedule. I think we're definitely not Friday at the meeting.
Right, fair enough. If that is true, then on yours, but if it's not, we will look at the sports team, based on those that are working, I would get that.
Sounds like a party back there.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a good lunch. I will say from the muffled sounds coming from the door, it sounds like you're in a great mood post-lunch, so that's were you able to adhere to the court's rule over lunch? Yes. All right, as always, thank you very much for that. Counsel, you may begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Professor Levine, I'd like to look at a document that's been marked Plaintiff's Exhibit 1045. This is going to be in the binder that's marked Volume 2, the new binder that you received, and it's got Volume 2 on the side.
And I'm sorry, you said
1045. It's also going to be up on your screen, your individual screen.
Okay.
Professor Levine, this is a presentation called Meta and Cyber Tips, right?
Yes.
And you cited this document in your expert report, right?
I don't recall where, but I believe you.
Your Honor, may we display the document?
Yes, you may.
So Professor Levine, this presentation is dated December 2021, right?
Yes,
That's about 5 years ago, right?
correct.
Okay, let's turn to page 2022, page 22. It's marked in yours with an orange flag because this document doesn't have page numbers.
Oh, an orange flag.
Should be a little orange tag.
Okay, I see it now. I see it now.
So this slide has a timeline of Meta's relationship with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, right?
I see that.
You refer to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children sometimes as NCMEC, right?
Correct.
And this timeline shows that Meta has been reporting inappropriate interactions with children, that is grooming, to NCMEC since 2012, right?
That's what it reports on this slide, yes.
And this slide also reports that Meta created a classifier to look for grooming in 2018, right?
That's what this slide represents, yes.
Professor Levine, can you explain to the jury what a classifier is?
A classifier generally is a computer science concept where you have a class of something, let's say apples or oranges, or apples or not, and then you provide examples to the classifier to train it to look for examples of that. And usually it's not perfect, depending on the difficulty of the task.
So it's fair to describe a classifier as a tool that automatically and proactively looks for a type of bad content, right?
Well, I don't know about proactively, but it looks for content of a particular class that it's been trained on.
So when Meta launched a classifier to look for inappropriate interactions with children, that meant that it was launching a tool to look proactively for those types of conversations, right?
It had plans to do that, yes. That's according to the slide.
The slide says it actually launched in 2018, right?
Sure, in 2018 it launched. And then what I would ask in a safety by design analysis is what is the effectiveness of that classifier? Was it launched on, which all the platforms or just Facebook? What happened to Instagram, et cetera?
We'll get there.
I'm sorry if I may finish, if it's okay. It's important to ask, the outcome of this tool, not just that the tool exists.
Okay, Professor Levine, let's look at some other items on this timeline. We've also got in 2011, Facebook launches Photo DNA. Do you see that?
I do see that.
And Photo DNA is a tool for finding child sexual abuse material, right?
Well, I would say Photo DNA is a tool for identifying images where small variations of the image make it hard to detect otherwise. So maybe if you resize the image, then it can be possible with an error rate for Photo DNA to recognize that these two images are the same, but one has been slightly altered.
And Facebook has been using Photo DNA to look for child sexual abuse material since 2011, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Let's look at 2015. It says here, Facebook launched Amber Alerts. Do you see that?
I do see that.
What's an Amber Alert?
An Amber Alert is a system to essentially alert the public for children at risk of harm.
And Facebook has been running Amber Alerts on its platform so people can help find missing children since 2015, right?
Yes, according to the slide.
Okay. Do you see in 2018, 2019, it says Facebook funds and helps build new case management tool. Do you see that?
I do see that.
Were you aware that Facebook had funded and helped build a new case management tool for NCMEC?
I am aware that there was a financial relationship between Facebook and NCMEC.
Okay. We can put that document aside. I'd like to pull up next PX 2085. This is going to be in your original binder that you looked at with Ms. Singer.
Okay, hold on, please.
That's fine. No rush here.
Okay.
And we'll pull it up on the, we can pull it up on the monitor as well.
And you said 2085, correct?
2085, yes.
Okay.
So PX 2085 is a document you looked at with Ms. Singer, right?
It is.
And this is titled Inappropriate Interactions with Children Progress Update, right?
Correct.
And it's dated September 2018, right?
It is.
So in September 2018, Meta was making progress in attacking inappropriate interactions with children.
I disagree. It was reporting progress.
Reporting progress. Okay, let's look at slide 19 in this deck. It's going to be marked for you with a red flag. Oh, actually,
no, it
this
won't
one,
because-
this one, right? I've got a version for you that has the flag, so you can find it better.
Yes, you're right.
This document also unfortunately doesn't have page numbers. Okay. So if you'll look with me at slide 19, this is going to be the first red flag.
Okay,
So this slide is titled IIC Detection and Actioning Strategy Overview, right?
it is.
Okay. Let's look at the detection column. And you see here that it says that for tier 1, Meta was focused on creating classifiers, right?
That is their focus.
And it also says that there are classifiers that they're working on for tier 2, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's look at the actor remediation column.
Okay.
So for tier 1, it says account disable via manual review to allow escalation to law enforcement. Do you see that?
It does say that.
So in 2018, when this slide deck was created, if Meta found inappropriate interactions with children, Meta would disable the account via manual review and then send a report to NCMEC, right?
Well, a lot of the slide deck refers to recidivism of disabled accounts. So yes, I agree. When I talked about recidivism, it was of disabled accounts.
So Professor Levine, it's actually the case that when Meta found inappropriate interactions with children in 2018, it would disable the perpetrator's account, right?
Yes, and I believe this is the slide deck that talks about recidivism, meaning the account was re-established and it was Meta's PYMK.
We'll get there,
recommend-
Professor Levine.
If it's
Well,
okay, if I-
you have to answer my questions. Your counsel will have an opportunity to ask you questions later.
Fair enough.
Okay. And then for tier 2, it says here, automated account disables with messaging to deter recidivist behavior. Do you see that?
I do.
So again, for tier 2, inappropriate interactions with children, Meta would also disable the account.
And all they had, as the sentence says, is messaging to deter, but not actual technology.
But Meta would disable the account, right?
But we're talking about recidivists, so they might re-enable it. That's the context.
Professor Levine, in 2018, if Meta found inappropriate interactions with children, it would disable the account, correct?
Correct.
You didn't tell the jury that yesterday, did you?
I did, because we were in the context of recidivism, and to be a recidivist means that the account was disabled. So I think that's clear.
Okay. Let's flip to slide 2022. To just 22, sorry, slide 22, which has a blue flag for you.
Blue flag. Oh, okay, I'm on the same page.
Okay, this slide is titled Q3 Goals and Progress Update, Prevention of Future IIC, right?
I do see that.
And the goal listed here is, our goal is to increase friction via PYMK, people you may know, and within Messenger, right?
That is the goal.
Okay, and then if you look under PYMK and goal in the chart below, it says launching experiment to remove minors from PYMK of suspected IIC adults, right?
I do see that.
And that item is listed as on track, right?
Their goals are on track.
And so in fact, Meta did do an experiment in 2018 to remove minors from the people you may know suggestions of potentially suspicious adults, right?
They did an experiment.
And then eventually they made that a permanent policy, right?
So this, as we said, this was 2018. And so years later, they made that a permanent policy.
Okay, let's pause for a minute and just talk about what people you may know is. People you may know is a feature of Facebook, right?
Correct.
Okay. And people you may know is called people you may know because it can help people find people they know in real life on Facebook, right?
Correct.
So for example, if you're already friends with 10 people from your high school on Facebook, the people you may know feature might suggest other people from your high school, right?
That's the intent.
Okay. So suppose people you may know shows you Nicole, who you remember from high school and liked. You could make a friend request to Nicole, right?
As an adult. That's what you said from high school. Is that correct? You're talking about
This is a hypothetical about you, Professor Levine. So suppose you know Nicole from high school. You remember her, you like her, you see her and your people you may know. You have the option to send her a friend
Well,
request.
I don't use Facebook, so I prefer to take me out of the hypothetical because it implies that I'm a user of Facebook. So let's just say someone knows Nicole. Go ahead.
A hypothetical adult is using Facebook. Suppose people you may know shows him Nicole, who he remembers from Facebook and likes. At that point, he can make a friend request to Nicole, right?
Yes.
And then Nicole has a choice. She can accept or reject the friend request, right?
Yeah, she could. I graduated high school at 17. She might be a minor.
The question is, Nicole, once you've sent her a friend request, she can accept or reject the request. She has that choice, right?
She has that choice.
And if she rejects the request, you won't be connected.
Correct.
And suppose people you may know shows this adult Zach, who he remembers from high school but never liked.
Okay.
He doesn't have to friend him, right?
Does not have to.
And suppose people you may know shows him Greg, who he doesn't know, but they have mutual friends. He also doesn't have to friend Greg, right?
Okay.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's a choice.
So in 2018, Meta employees were worried, as you've seen in these documents, that people you may know might be being abused by bad actors. So they ran this experiment to remove teens from the people you may know suggestions given to people that Meta thought might be suspicious, right?
Okay.
Is that correct?
I don't know what their intentions were, but I agree that's my interpretation of the slide.
Okay. And so Meta ended up coming up with a framework to flag users who might be suspicious, but hadn't actually done anything that violated Meta's policies, right?
They had a goal, they had a framework, yes.
And so an adult might be flagged as potentially suspicious under that framework if they had a new account, right?
If they had a new account, why would that flag them as suspicious?
I'm asking you, isn't it true that Meta's framework that they developed for this purpose would flag adults as potentially suspicious if they had a new account?
I'm not sure.
So you don't know the criteria that were used to flag adults as potentially suspicious?
I know that one of the criteria was inappropriate interactions with children, as the label suggests.
Isn't it true that another criteria was whether the adult messaged a lot of people?
Could be.
And isn't it true that another one of the criteria was whether the adult had just been blocked by someone?
I did read that somewhere.
So today, you're aware that if a user appears to be very suspicious using this framework, Meta will just deactivate their account, right?
Sure, that could be.
Okay. Let's flip to slide 64. This is the slide about recidivism that you talked about with Ms. Singer yesterday, right?
Yes, is it flagged as number 2?
It should have a yellow flag for you. This is slide 64 of the document.
Okay, I'm there.
And so this is that analysis of recidivism you were talking about earlier, right?
That's correct.
Okay. But you didn't tell the jury how Meta did this analysis, did you?
I talked about this slide, but we could go back a couple slides and talk about it if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's look at slide 61. This also has a red flag. Okay. So this shows that Meta ran an experiment on a set of accounts that had already been disabled for IIC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Meta ran an experiment on a set of accounts that had already been disabled for IIC, right?
Well, it says after being disabled, 30% IIC came back with new violating accounts. It doesn't say that they re-enabled them, so I don't know why you're making that inference.
No. Meta looked at a set of accounts that had been already terminated
Mm-hmm.
for IIC
Okay.
after 33 days, right?
Okay.
That's what this slide describes, correct?
Okay. It says we waited 33 days.
And then they looked for whether or not those people had created new accounts using cookie sharing, right?
Well, I want to say from this slide alone, we don't know whether they waited 33 days. for account, I mean, you're saying that either it's the case they waited 33 days for accounts that they already were already violating, they let them on their platform to cause more harms potentially, or it could be they looked at accounts that after the fact they knew it had been at least 33 days. We don't know which from the slide.
Professor Levine, you don't know because you don't work at Meta and you didn't do this experiment, right?
That's right, but either way, it concerns me.
We'd have to ask someone who actually worked on these issues at Meta, wouldn't we?
We would, but let's go ahead and we can talk about which scenario affects the results.
Let's look at slide 63. This is also has a red flag in your set.
1, 2, or 3. Okay, I see.
It should be the
number
third red
3.
flag.
I see it.
Slide 63. So what Facebook found was that 93% of the users who tried to come back and sign up with new accounts used an entirely different name, date of birth, and location, right?
Correct. Sorry,
That-
no, that's not what it says. It says only 7% came back with none of those. So some of them may have come back with one or more, or one or not all of them.
Okay, so only 7% of people didn't try to trick Facebook.
Didn't try to trick Facebook with all 3 of these criteria is the way I read this.
So Meta did this analysis to try to figure out how to prevent this type of recidivism, right?
And I think that's especially important given that they didn't check for IDs. They don't know. I read that people who had the same name on the same device were still allowed to connect back to Facebook.
Professor
Didn't have the
Levine,
information to check.
Professor Levine, I'm asking you a different question.
Okay.
Meta did this analysis to try to figure out how it could better prevent recidivism, right?
That's the stated goal, not the outcome.
But you haven't talked to any of the people that actually did this analysis to know one way or the other why they did it.
People were not provided to me during the process that I was given, that I undertook, and to write the report and appear here today.
Okay. So around April 2019, Meta ended up making a permanent policy change where teenagers would no longer be recommended to potentially suspicious adults through people you may know, right?
Correct. And that was a product we agree was introduced in 2010 on Facebook, correct? So many years later is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to ask you a question. I apologize.
No, I'm saying in April of 2019, Meta introduced that change for Facebook, right?
For Facebook, 9 years after the introduction of the PYMK.
Let's look. I want to look at a new document. This is PX 489.
So you handed this to me, so I'm just going to put it here. And I'm sorry, can you say PX? And that would
PX
be in
489.
this- And that would be your book, correct?
Yes, this is, no, this is a document that you looked at with Ms.
Oh,
Singer.
Okay.
So you can look at it in the original binder that you had.
Okay, I'm looking at the document.
So this is an email chain from June 28th, 2020, right?
Correct.
Okay. So this is after Meta had already made that change to people you may know on Facebook, right?
Correct.
Now, Instagram has a feature that's similar to people you may know, right?
Correct.
It's called Accounts Suggested for You.
Correct.
And so in this email chain, as you discussed with Mrs. Singer, they're talking about making some changes to Instagram to mirror what had already been done with Facebook, right?
Yes, and I recall this is the document where we were concerned about 500,000 victims per day in English markets only.
Okay. And Instagram actually undertook this work and ultimately made the exact same change to Accounts Suggested for You, right?
Well, if they did that, it was certainly later than this document, which is again, they acquired Instagram in 2012. So this is 8 years already past their acquisition of the product.
So Professor Levine, this is June 28th. 2020, right?
2020, correct.
Okay. I want to look at in volume 3, your volume 3 binder, there's a document that's labeled PX 665.
DX, volume 3,
It's
DX.
PX 665 in volume 3.
Volume 3s are labeled DX. Volume 3.
Okay. I have a loose copy, so we can do it that way. Your
Okay.
Honor, may I approach?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, counsel.
If it's to continue delivering helpful copies, that's a standing permission.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Professor Levine, this is a longer version of the same email chain, right?
I'd have to look, but yes, because I can see it says, so if we can do something here, cool, but if we can do nothing at all, that's fine too. So it looks
And-
to be the same.
And you actually cited this version of the chain in your materials considered list, didn't you?
I assume you're correct.
Okay. Your Honor, may we display the document?
Yes.
It's not redacted with last names, just to tell you.
Can we display to the jury?
Okay, well, why don't we display just to the jury and not to the public?
I won't read any last names.
Thank you. So let's look at the July 14th, 2020 email on page 1 from Syed Atoro.
Okay,
Now, Syed Atoro is Instagram's Director of Product Management for Wellbeing, right?
I don't recall that, but I am sure you're correct.
Okay. And if you look at that second paragraph in his email, it says, last Wednesday, Ed confirmed that the MWB's support and inclusion team will take on H2 2020 goals for lower IIC prevalence on IGD, right?
I see that.
That has a lot of acronyms in there, but let's break it down. So what Syed Aturo is saying here is that the Messenger, Facebook Messenger,
Oh, well. Opposite. Interesting. Okay.
wonderful. All right, let's look back at that paragraph. So in this email, Syed Aturo is saying that Ed confirmed that the messaging, Facebook Messenger Wellbeing's support and inclusion team would take on the goal of lowering IIC prevalence on Instagram Direct, right?
I see that.
So within 2 weeks of the email we just looked at, they had staffed this task, right?
That's correct.
And then if we pull up PX 2766, which is already in evidence and you looked at with Ms. Singer.
2766?
Yes, we can pull that up on the screen as well. This is that announcement announcing to the world that Instagram was starting to prevent potentially suspicious adults from seeing teens in accounts suggested for you, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So 2021, again, Instagram was purchased in 2012, significantly
You're
later.
I mean, Professor Levine, there's no question pending.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay, let's look at PX 3665, which is in
36.
3665.
3685?
3665.
Which binder is it in? Oh, 36.
Oh, sorry, that's 3685. 3685.
No, 3685. Okay.
This has already been shown, correct?
This is an email chain, yes, that you looked at with Ms. Singer, right?
I believe so, Your Honor.
Okay. And so this is an email chain from October of 2023, right?
Correct.
So this is about 2 years later.
Correct.
Your Honor, may we display this to the jury?
All right, I just want to make sure, does it have some of the same redaction issues or we good?
I don't believe so. I'd see black boxes here.
Take a quick look and make sure.
We're all set. That was a one-off, we hope. So Professor Levine, you argued that this document showed that Meta wasn't actually removing teens from the people you may know recommendations given to potentially suspicious adults, right?
I argued that based on what I read.
Okay. Well, let's look at that first email in the chain from Monica Bickert. This is at page 5. Now, Monica Bickert is Meta's head of global policy, right?
Okay, I didn't memorize her title, but I believe you.
She would certainly be the expert on what Meta's policies actually are, right?
I'd hope.
Objection, Your Honor, foundation.
I withdraw it. Let's look at what Ms. Bickert had to say here. She describes the status quo as cut risky adults from recommendations to and from minors. Do you see that?
I do see that. Product is wedded to option 1, status quo.
And status quo means what we are doing now, right?
This is the current policy.
So Ms. Bickert is saying right now we cut out risky adults from recommendations to and from minors, right?
This is the document where it said that they weren't doing this. So I just want to emphasize again, it's the policy, not necessarily what they're doing.
Okay. Do you see that here she says, I want to get your thoughts on the options in this doc.
I see that.
Did you go and look for this doc?
I may have. I don't know what doc it refers to, so I can't say sitting here today.
Great, let's look at it.
Okay.
This is going to be DX 5498. This is going to be in your volume 3 binder.
Oh, I'm sorry. What? Say the number again.
DX 5498.
5498, volume 1.
Volume 3.
Volume 3. 5498. Okay.
Okay. So this document is titled Decision Next Steps in Implementing Audit Minor Recommendations Policy, AC Priv. Do you see that?
I do see that.
And this is dated October 13th, 2023.
That's correct.
So this is also from October 2023.
That appears to be the case.
Your Honor, may we publish the document?
Your Honor, before we do, may we approach?
Yes, you may. Thank you very much. you?
Oh, yes.
I'll do it.
So, Professor Levine, we interrupt our regularly scheduled programming for a question from the jury.
Oh, okay.
The question is, does opt-in end-to-end encryption require both sides to opt-in? Opt-in.
I believe so. I believe from recollection, one side opts in and then the other side says, yes, I will receive this message. That's my understanding.
Let's see, were you able to confirm?
We do have the Bates number, and we're just going to hand it off. So we've confirmed that it was produced. So Professor Levine, if you'll look with me at this document from October 2023, do you see under the heading risky adult minor filtering?
I do see that heading.
And it says today. Do you see that where it starts today?
I see following the first Wall Street Journal article, the Child Safety Task Force has
Professor
been-
Levine, sorry, I'm asking about the sentence that begins today. Do you see that it says today our safety protections and recommendations include 1, bi-directional filters preventing risky adults and minors from being recommended to each other. 2, bi-directional filters preventing risky adults from being recommended to other risky adults. And 3, filters that prevent the recommendation of risky adults to any user. Do you see that?
I do.
And then if you look below that, there is a sentence that says, this document is focused on whether we should launch additional filters on top of the minor risky adult filtering, right?
That's right. It looks to be an explanation right below that to explain why.
So this document that Ms. Bickert circulated is consistent with what she said in her email, which is that at this time, Meta was absolutely filtering teens from the people you may know recommendations of potentially suspicious adults, right?
No, I'm not sure based on what you just showed on the screen. I can explain why if you wish.
But you don't know one way or the other because you didn't work at Meta and you weren't involved in this decision, right?
As I said, I can explain if you'll show the whole document, but
But you don't know, you're not sure.
I can explain what I can glean from this document.
Okay.
But if you don't want me to, I won't.
Let's look at PX 609.
PX 609.
609, this is another document that you looked at with Ms. Singer.
Oh, I apologize. 609 is not, oh, I think it's the loose document.
Oh, yes, it is the loose document. If you need another
I
copy.
have it. I have
Okay.
it.
All right. PX 609 is an email chain from September 2020, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And if you'll look with me at the third page here, it's got under the recommendation child exploitation heading. There's the first sentence here says, ahead of interop, work is in progress to block unconnected adults on Facebook and Instagram from initiating messages with minors on Facebook. Do you see that?
I see it says work is in progress.
Work is in progress, right. So interop was an initiative that Meta considered, but never implemented, where people would be able to message each other from Facebook to Instagram and from Instagram to Facebook, right?
Okay,
Isn't that right?
I believe you.
Are you familiar with interop?
I didn't have enough documentation to say whether it was implemented or not.
So you weren't aware until right now that this was an initiative that Meta never actually followed through with?
Correct.
Okay. So all the things that you pointed out in this document that weren't done couldn't possibly matter because the initiative never went through, right?
No, that's a gross misclassification of what I said because you're saying it about every sentence in the document, and some of the sentences in the document explain the status quo outside of the interop operation.
Sure, let's look at one of those. Why don't we look at page 2?
Okay.
And if you look at page 2, there's a email here, and it says, under not ready, move up to ready. Do you see that?
Page 2, under ready, not, I do see that.
And here they're announcing that the IIC classifier that they created for Instagram is ready and has been calibrated, right?
But again, a safety by design analysis would ask for the outcome.
Professor Levine, I'm asking, doesn't it say here in this document that you relied on that the IIC classifier for Instagram is ready and is being deployed?
And let's find out what the outcome is, but that's what it says.
Okay, great. If you'll look with me again at page 4. There's a section here that you looked at with Ms. Singer called block reach of unconnected adults to IG minors, right?
I see that.
Okay. And the very first sentence here says, currently on Messenger, that's a reference to Facebook Messenger, right?
That's how I understand it.
Okay, so currently on Facebook Messenger, we do not deliver messages initiated by unconnected adults to minors, right?
And then there's more about Instagram, but yes, it says that.
But that's the description of the current state of affairs right here in this
For
document.
both platforms, correct.
Okay.
And this is, you said 2020, that's correct.
Okay. We can set that document aside. So I'd like to look at the 2018 congressional testimony that you looked at with Ms. Singer.
Do you mind telling me the number?
Yes, yeah. It's PX 4103. And that should be in your original binder.
I think it is. Okay, I have it.
Professor Levine, did you read this full transcript? Oh, is this the right? I think. Can we, Jeff, would you mind showing the PX version, PX 4103, which was admitted? Okay, wonderful.
I'm sorry, my 4103 doesn't have that cover page, but maybe it doesn't matter to you. I have the, I have something different.
While we're waiting on the document, Professor Levine, did you read the full transcript?
I didn't read the full transcript.
But you're aware that this is a transcript of a hearing that had to do with data privacy on Facebook, right?
And just to be clear, Meta hadn't been announced at that time, so I just want to clarify for everyone, Facebook is the overall company at this point.
Okay.
So, but I'm aware of that.
But in particular, this hearing was about a data privacy breach on Facebook, right?
And that's why I focused on the sentence that I did.
I want to look at page 24 of the document.
I just want to say there are numbers at the top and the bottom. So are you going with the exhibit number or what's displayed in the document?
Let's see. Just one second.
I emailed it. Mine looks very different. I apologize.
Okay. I believe that the page numbers are going to be the ones at the bottom of your page.
Okay.
So this is going to be from 24 going on to page 25, and it's that same exchange that you looked at with Ms. Singer.
I think it is. I think that's correct.
Okay, wonderful.
So at this point, is it we ascertained the same document as was previously used?
We are We have the same document. We're just trying to get it up on the screen so everyone can see it.
Okay, and the holdup was that I wasn't sure it was the same document, so I'll fix that right now. Well, I think I'll fix it right now.
Jeff, are we able to bring it up?
No, ma'am, not yet.
We can, since we're all on the same page, we're all looking at the same document, we can talk about it even before we bring it up on the screen.
We'll put it up.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. If we could look at page 24 on the bottom. There's a question here at the bottom from Mr. Barton. And Mr. Barton says, is there any reason that we couldn't just have a no data sharing policy period until you're 18? Just if you were a child with your own Facebook account until you reach the age of 18, you can't share anything. It is their data. It doesn't go anywhere. Nobody gets to scrape it. Nobody gets to access it. It is absolutely, totally private for children. What's wrong with that? Do you see that question?
I do see that question.
And then if we turn to the next page, we'll see the answer that you looked at with Ms. Singer. And here Mr. Zuckerberg says, that maybe